Episode 3 picks up right where episode 2 left off, with John B. freaking out, realizing that Sarah has indeed been shot. He calls up Terrence, and Terrence ends up coming to find them. You got to get her to a doctor. Don't go to a hospital. You get caught. And then he gives him an address of a guy that he knows who's a doctor. As he's shuffling John B. and Sarah into the car, Terrence says, "You got 8 hours, and then we got to leave." John B. and Sarah haul ass to this place. And the place looks pretty sketchy, and the doctor is pretty sketchy, but he buzzes them in, and he tells John B., "Put her on the table." The doctor hooks up an IV for Sarah and tells John that she's bleeding a little on the outside, but a lot on the inside. He can go in, but she's going to lose a lot of blood, which means she could die. He doesn't want to be held liable for that. He also wants $4,000 to do the procedure. The only money that John B. has is the gold nugget, so he hands it over. And the doctor is definitely surprised, but he accepts the $140,000 tip, and he goes to work. He's able to remove the bullet and stitch Sarah up. Now it's just a matter of time of seeing if she actually recovers or not. Well, John B. is waiting for Sarah at a makeshift doctor's office. Ward and Rafe headed to the police to file a report after their gold was stolen. And Ward still can't believe that he saw Sarah. But then he yells at Rafe for pointing a gun and shooting it in her direction, saying, "You could have hit her." And that's when Rafe says, "I did hit her. I didn't mean to shoot her, but I don't care that I did." Ward looks at him shocked and says, "That is your sister." And Rafe just starts mumbling how she stole from them, how she had her boyfriend point a gun at them, and how Ward needs to take the blinders off. This little family spat gets interrupted when the police come over and show Ward a picture that was taken by a tourist of two teenagers, one with a gunshot, going into a building. And Ward is able to confirm that that is indeed his daughter. The police have security cameras, they have license plates, they have addresses. They tell Ward, "We should be able to find them and your gold." But at that makeshift hospital, things start going south quick. All of a sudden, Sarah's vitals don't look so good. The doctor comes in and tells John B., "We can't give her any more fluid, it'll kill her." The doctor frantically starts looking for a BVM, and as the doctor is looking all over his office for it, Sarah completely flatlines. The doctor runs in with the BVM and tells John, "Start pushing on the sternum until I tell you to stop." And both of them start trying to bring Sarah back to life. But John B. continues to push, the doctor continues to pump the BVM, and eventually the doctor just gives up. He tells John B., "She's lost too much blood, kid. I'm going to leave you with her for a little bit." And John B. can't believe the doctor's walking away. But John B. isn't willing to give up. He continues to try to use CPR to bring her back, but nothing's working. Nothing but the power of love. Because when John B. tells Sarah that he loves her, all of a sudden her finger starts moving. That's right. It was those 3 words, those 8 letters, that brought Sarah Cameron back from the dead. When John B. yells for the doctor to come take a look at her again, the doctor's attitude is kind of like, "Oh, cool. She's not dead." And he walks back out of the room with John B. just waiting for Sarah to wake up. She does end up waking up, actually a little bit earlier than they expected. And they've got an hour to spare before Terrence's 8-hour timeline, so they need to get a move on. John B. just wants to make sure that she rests, but she says, "No, we gotta go." But when they try to go out the way they came, they notice that the police are asking around, and they figure that they're asking around about them. Since they did just give this doctor $140,000 more than he asked for, he decides to hook them up with an escape vehicle, telling them, "Take it down to the wharf, leave the keys under the mat, I'll come pick it up later." So Sarah and John B. head down to meet Terrence and his crew, but when they get to the wharf, they see that there's a ton of police. They casually drive up and ask, "What's going on?" And the police officer tells them, "There was a robbery, keep moving." And that's when they notice that there wasn't just a robbery, the police are loading the gold back from Terrence's boat into a police vehicle. So the gold is gone. As Sarah and John B. are sitting there wondering what they're going to do, one of the police officers recognizes them from the picture that was taken by that tourist. He yells for John B. and Sarah to get out of the car, but they realize that they've been ID'd, and they speed off. It causes a high-speed chase through Nassau, one that has John B. turn into a very small alley where he's dodging pedestrians left and right. And after one particular close call, he turns around to see if the person he almost hit was okay, and that's when he actually hits somebody. He gets up to see if that person actually is okay, and he's shocked to find that it's Cleo. She tells him she'll be alright, but he loads her in the vehicle, and the trio head off. Cleo tells them that the police showed up and there was a shootout. She dove over the side of the boat, and she has no idea what happened to Terrence or Stubby. But with no gold and no money, Sarah and John B. need to figure out what they're going to do. Luckily for them, they do have Cleo, and the trio lay low for a couple hours until it's nightfall, and they head back to the marina. Cleo tells them, "I have a boat for you." And Sarah, it's going to look really familiar. And it's the Cameron boat that Terrence stole from her family house. Now it's just a matter of where they're going to go. And John B. starts talking about going to some deserted island and living on that. But Sarah goes, "No, stop. We can't do that. We need to go home." Ward said he would tell the truth if we came back. I can confront him about that. John B starts talking about how Ward is completely untrustworthy, and Sarah says, yeah, but I'm your alibi, so trust me. John B remembers that he is supposed to follow Sarah's lead, so guess they're heading back to OBX. They think that Cleo's coming with them, but she's not. She actually tells him, there's so much heat on you, I'll do better by myself. She then goes off to get the keys, and that's when John B and Sarah are caught by a lone police officer. Cleo comes back, though, smacks the police officer with an oar, throws the keys to John B, and John B is able to get away. Cleo is able to hop in the water and lose the cop as well. Sarah and John B have quite a trip ahead of them. I mean, this isn't exactly like going to your local Walmart. And on the ride, Sarah decides, you know what? We should get married. I guess she feels indebted to John B because he did bring her back from the dead, and he does have 10-pack abs. So John B rips a piece of his dad's bandana, wraps it around Sarah's neck. That's going to be the wedding ring, and Sarah pronounces them husband and wife. It's an adorable ceremony. I was lucky to be a part of it. But as Sarah and John were fleeing the marina, Ward Cameron was called to the marina because they found his gold and they're returning it. He's pumped about it. They're going to leave the next day and they should be in the clear. But Rafe is not doing so hot. He tells his dad, I'm not okay. But Ward keeps repeating, no, you're fine. And Rafe starts shaking his head saying that he just has these thoughts. And he's worried that he's not going to be able to control these thoughts. The pressure of everything he's done is coming down on him. And Ward is trying to get Rafe to get a grip on things without tipping off the cops to anything going on. The cops, though, do look in his direction, and Ward has to go over and say, hey, he's been through a lot. He was there when the gold was stolen. It's all good. It's pretty clear, though, that Rafe is having a mental breakdown. So that's what was going on in Nassau. But over in the Outer Banks, the Pogues are in class when the class is interrupted by somebody looking for Pope. And it's from the Scholarship Foundation that he was going out for. The representative tells Pope that he's sorry that it didn't work out. But there were a few members of the board that were very interested in his story about the Royal Merchant. He hands him a sealed letter and says, I can't guarantee anything about a scholarship, but if you get in the good graces of family, who knows? They're very powerful. Good luck. When Pope flips the letter over, he notices that it's sealed by the wheat mark, the same wheat mark that was on all of the gold. He runs back into the classroom to show the Pogues, and they're freaking out a little bit, trying to make sense of everything. As soon as class is over, they head to the library to read this thing. And the letter says, Dear Mr. Hayward, I have evidence that can exonerate John B.'s name. It's of vital importance that you come meet with me at my offices in Charleston, North Carolina. 8 p.m. sharp tonight, please come alone. And Charleston isn't exactly close to the Outer Banks. That's a hike. They would basically have to leave right then and there. Pope then notices the last name on the letter is Limbrey, and that name sounds really familiar. When he does a quick Google search, he realizes it's the same last name of the captain on the Royal Merchant. He's just putting two and two together, but he figures that whoever contacted him is a distant relative of the captain. Doesn't really matter, though. All they care about is that this person can help clear John B.'s name, so they have to get to Charleston by 8 p.m. Pope ends up stealing his dad's truck, figuring he's probably got about 8 hours until his dad freaks out. Key, on the other hand, well, her parents don't exactly take it well. They start talking about how she's throwing her future away, how she needs a better life for herself, and then they drop a bombshell on her that they're thinking about sending her to boarding school. And that's when Key flips out. She starts storming out of their place over to Pope's truck, and her mom yells at her, if you leave and you're not back tonight, then don't bother coming back. But Key's mind's made up. She's a Pogue, and she's leaving with Pope and JJ. On the drive to Charleston, all three of them are trying to make sense of the letter. They can't figure out what this family, the Limbreys, would know about the murder, even though, according to Key, they do own about half of Charleston. They also don't know why they're targeting Pope specifically, and also why they want him to come alone. As they're discussing all of this, though, their truck breaks down. This blows up any chance of them making it by 8 p.m., and it guarantees that Pope's dad's going to find out he took his truck. They have to get the truck towed to a mechanic, and as Pope is discussing with the mechanic what he thinks the issue is, JJ can tell that Key's pretty depressed. And that's because it dawned on her that her mom is so worried about her becoming a Pogue that she's willing to send her off to boarding school. She tells JJ she's not going to go. I mean, at this point, she is who she is. And JJ tells her it's not all that bad. I mean, look at that guy over there, and points to Pope. JJ tells Key that Pope would do anything for them, because JJ is trying to be a good wingman. They end up paying for the truck repairs, or I should say, Key ends up paying for the truck repairs, or I should say, Key's parents end up paying for the truck repairs. Either way, they get the truck out, and they're forced to sleep in the bed of the truck that night. Even though they're a day late, the next day, they start crossing a bridge over to Charleston. And as they're doing so, JJ says, I wonder where Sarah and John B. are. Only if they looked outside of their window, because Sarah and John B. have run out of gas. But luckily, they're literally right under that bridge, floating into Charleston. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comment section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. But once again, thank you for checking out this recap.